So we had some big news drop yesterday that I wanted to share with you guys. Apparently, there's going to be a whole bunch of new indictments dropping in Georgia. And we have some early reports. I don't know how much of this is sourced versus how much of this is speculation, but it looks like we're getting a general sense of the gist of the kind of indictments and the kind of crimes Trump is going to be brought up on. Okay, so they're saying it's very possible that they do RICO charges. Now, for those of you who don't know, RICO charges are basically what they use to go after mafia dons and mobsters. Why? Because it's highly organized crime. And it's not just like, here's one instance of one criminal thing happening. It's like extended over a long period of time with a whole bunch of planning, and you got to put the different pieces together to show this was a criminal conspiracy. It took an extended amount of time. It was complex, and here's how it worked. So that's one of the potential things they might go after him on. So here's what they say in The Hill. Some experts say Fani Willis may settle on racketeer, influenced, and corruption organizations charges in bringing a case against Trump. RICO statutes are typically used for organized crime, but the Georgia statute is broader than its federal counterpart and can be geared towards any, quote, enterprise, enabling the use of the statute for a wider variety of conduct. Doing so would help weave together different elements of the Trump campaign's efforts, connecting a plot carried out by numerous actors. It also would allow numerous conspirators to potentially be charged alongside the former president. This is where, of course, the right is going to chime in and say, well, hold on, this is a novel interpretation of the law. This is something this is untested. We've never been down this road. So this isn't going to work. It's used for the mafia and for cartels. You're going to use this to go after Trump. And my response to that is literally anything we do vis-a-vis Trump and criminal charges is going to be novel. Why? Because we've never had a former president attempt to stay in office when he lost. So it doesn't matter what crime you're charging, obstructing an official government proceeding or, the stuff over the fake electors and all these different things. It's all novel. We've never been here because we've never had a president who did this. So I don't find that argument particularly persuasive because by definition, it's going to be novel no matter what. Doesn't matter what charge you're using. We've never been here before. Does that mean you just throw your hands up and say, well, I guess it was legal? No, of course not. That's absurd. So I don't find their counter-argument persuasive even a little bit. Quote, when you have a criminal enterprise that includes a pattern of violations that's inherently more serious and kind of separately serious than any individual criminal action, said Noah Bookbinder, president of Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, who also helped draft a model prosecution memo analyzing the case. Quote, charging a RICO offense kind of captures that this is a multifaceted, larger plan. I think that's part of why that kind of statute exists, and it's part of why prosecutors may charge it. It allows you to review lots of different conduct, but it also allows you to present a case and to present evidence that is a bigger scheme and not a couple of disparate events that could be dismissed as kind of small individual actions. See, look, this is interesting and important because a lot of high-level crime is done like this, right? It's not just, I'm going to break into a convenience store and rob it and get away, and all the facts are neat and right there in front of you, and you got the video camera with the stuff. No, this is detailed, this is nuanced, this is complex, this is complicated, this went on over an extended period of time, there are all these little moving parts. And all that stuff is going to be admissible in court when dealing with RICO charges. They say RICO charges would allow prosecutors to sweep in criminal statutes in Georgia that aren't directly tied to elections, such as making false statements and official certificates. That's what they do with the fake elector scheme, as well as charges for computer trespass, which could be used to address broader Trump campaign efforts to access voter machine data in Coffee County, Georgia. Okay, I learned something new about this all the time, about just how criminal their actions were. So apparently they had, Trump officials basically try to get involved with the computer data and mess stuff up to help Trump. I mean, how is that not criminal? How is that not criminal? Well, it very well might be. And so they'll be able to use that if they do RICO charges. Okay. RICO also allows Willis to sweep in conduct outside of her Fulton County jurisdiction in the broader indictment, such as the Coffee County computer probe and phone calls made by Trump and those in his orbit to election officials residing in other Georgia counties. Quote, there was a question as to what, if any, charges may be attached to some of the happenings in Cobb County with the Secretary of State investigator that was conducting an investigation in Cobb. She had a call from the president. She was visited by Mark Meadows, who, by the way, there's a lot of evidence he may be cooperating, which would be devastating to Trump. He may be cooperating with the prosecution. And Gwen Keyes Fleming, a former Georgia district attorney now in private practice, who also worked on the memo. She obviously, as the Fulton County district attorney, would not have jurisdiction over a crime that happens in Cobb, but she would add any sort of predicate of facts that she may want to attach to those actions to a Fulton County indictment if two or more of the other charges happen in Fulton. That's one potential road they can go down, RICO charges. That would be very interesting. Now, look, I don't want to overstate it in this case, I feel like the easiest case to prosecute, believe it or not, is the classified documents one. Because that is, I mean, it was clear obstruction of justice. They have like tremendous evidence for this. They have people who will testify to what happened. So that's like the slam dunk case. The January 6th one vis-a-vis Jack Smith in DC, I think that one's a little easier to prove than this one. But this one right here, it is like, I think it's a harder one to prove because of all the moving parts in Georgia. But it's also an important one in the sense that there's debate around if he goes down for the other charges, but he becomes president, which is possible with the timeline. We'll have to see. But he might just like try to pardon himself from these federal crimes. He cannot pardon himself from state crimes. The president can only pardon from federal crimes. So if he goes down on this, he might be done. But then it also gets complicated because, so if he wins the primary for Republicans, and then you get the answer on some of these cases before the general, yes, his ass can go behind bars. But if the conclusion to all these cases happens after the presidential race and he wins, well, in our Constitution, a president can only be impeached. He can't be, charged, arrested criminally, etc. So like the office does kind of protect him. So there's a lot. I mean, we're in really uncharted territory here in a way that's kind of scary. Now, I still think he's guilty of these crimes. Still think he should be charged for these crimes. But, man, they got to speed up that timeline as much as possible because you don't want to roll the dice with, having the answer after the general election. Here are other potential charges. Solicitation and conspiracy charges. Georgia has a suite of election-based charges that could be used to address Trump's pressure campaign on various officials in the state. Trump's infamous call to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger asked him to find another 11,780 votes was just one of several examples of outreach. Trump also made such calls to Francis Watson, an employee in Raffensperger's office, who was investigating alleged signature mismatches. There's probably more than just that one perfect phone call. There's probably a lot of the perfect phone calls where he's like, hey, my name is Crimey McCrimington, and I would like you to commit some Crimey McCrimingtons on my behalf. Let's do this as a criminal conspiracy together. That's basically where we are. And so it looked like in Fulton County, Georgia, they were already preparing the announcement of indictments because they were like locking down the road or whatever that they might do the announcement on. And so this could come really any moment now. In fact, by the time this video drops, it might happen. Or it might be just, within 7 days, within the week. We'll see. But man, the list of charges, it keeps growing and growing and growing. And I keep going back to what Mark Levin, of all people, said. Now, he's a conservative hack, but he came out there and said, all they got to do is get him on one of these things. And Trump is cooked. And as I look at all these things, I'm like, I don't know how they don't get him on at least one of these things. So I guess we'll see, but it is getting wild out there. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.